Alright guys, TouchCrowBay back again today. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday so far, and the dust has settled from a few crazy days of rostermania over the last few days. Huntsmen have confirmed, the Dallas Empire, of course, we already knew their roster from a while ago. The Minnesota Rocket confirmed, as did the Atlanta FaZe. Going to be talking through some of those teams today, where exactly they match up so far and who could be the best team, but also pretty interesting story, to be honest, regarding Scump and Arcitys. Of course, Scump saying in this clip, as we'll look at in a second, that he would have preferred Arcitys not to leave this team at all, but Arcitys decided to because he wanted to play that main assault rifle role over at the Atlanta FaZe, kind of saying that they wouldn't have even needed Dashy if Arcitys wanted to stick around. And to be honest, adding to the scare factor, in my opinion, of the Atlanta FaZe squad, given that Arcitys has decided to go there to play his preferred role. We'll talk about exactly how these teams might match out in a few minutes time, and when we get more confirmations, we can do a proper power rankings video. Like, if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Before we get into that, wanted to mention this. Black Ops Cold War Open Alpha was confirmed yesterday, if you guys didn't see it. Available only, unfortunately, on the PlayStation 4, starting this Friday, that being tomorrow, running through to the Sunday. So, yeah, 3 days of Open Alpha. It's going to be the same build as the pro players and the influencers were playing last week. So the slide cancel is still a thing. I imagine the AK-74U is still going to be the most overpowered gun in the game, as we did see. PS5 also announced their kind of pricing structure, like $400, 400 euros, 360 quid for the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition. Pretty reasonable stuff, but maybe a lot of people watching this video are thinking, well, maybe you'll just get a PC, given that, well, Call of Duty is going to be played professionally, at least, on the PC this year. But to be honest, I'll probably still end up getting a PS5, because it just feels good to play it on a controller, in my opinion. And the PS5 is going to be pretty powerful, because apparently we're going to get 120 frames per second on Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. So do we even need a PC? I don't know, not unless you're playing the game at a really high level of play and looking to go pro and all that kind of good stuff. Maybe you are, in which case you might want to consider a PC. That's also a perfectly reasonable option as well. But the PS5 certainly looking good right now. This is what Tony Flame says, just to say here from Brian Saint, the slide cancel patch, as he mentioned, because Tony Flame and co talked about how they were trying to tweak the slide cancel. Effectively, it seems to work very similar to Modern Warfare, which a lot of the pros and people around the professional community weren't too happy about. And well, Tony Flame says that will be updated for the beta. So there's still a beta planned, I believe October the 9th, I heard the name, or something around that region. So we got this weekend as the open alpha, then they're going to create a beta build for a couple of weekends time with the slide cancel patched, and I imagine some weapon changes and all this kind of stuff. And then of course the game releases, well, I think November the 13th or something like that. So a couple of rostermania things to go through as well. Sparks confirmed his team for challenges next season. One of the players he's playing with is Neptune, who I believe is like a Halo professional, so that's kind of cool to see. We also get this from Shawnee Cold saying he's playing League play with Dylan, Zach, Zdeno and Alex. Dylan and Alex are rumoured to be, well, plus Shawnee, the team of 3 over at the London Royal Ravens, a discussion which we're going to have about Waskin later today if nothing crazy happens in terms of rostermania. But Zach was also playing League play with them, Zach Zdeno. Who knows whether he's going to be on the Paris team? He may not be there anymore, so he may be looking for options. And I'm not sure if London would be an option, but kind of would reunite some of these guys that have played together back in the day on the Unilad team and Reciprocity and all this kind of stuff. So maybe that's not out of the question, but well, we really don't know who the 4th is going to be on the London Royal Ravens right now. This also wanted to share this quick clip from Temp, talking about how he hasn't 100% confirmed a spot on a team yet, but it seems like something is definitely in the works the way he describes this. Rumour has it potential to OGLA as their 4th, with Slasher, Kenny and TJ. Looking for a 4th player, kind of would make sense to bring Tempest in a flex. He's played before with Slasher back in the World War II days as well on that Envy squad, which didn't go so well at the time, but maybe this reuniting can work this time around.
You dig? You know what I'm saying? Did I get a team? No, not yet. Not 100% yet.
Okay, so let's talk about this clip then that comes out from Scump yesterday, talking about, you know what, if you love something, sometimes you gotta let it go. Talking about Arcitys, like everyone knows that Alec has been a great teammate on this squad and was a great asset for this team, of course, the entire season long. And what's so scary, really, about other teams in his move to the Atlanta FaZe is that he wasn't even playing his preferred role these last couple of years. He was the second AR to Clayster in the Black Ops 4 season. He was the second AR to Formal this season in Modern Warfare. He wants to play that kind of in-game leadership type because he's not exactly a veteran, right? But he's been around since Infinite Warfare a couple of years ago now, won championships over multiple titles, and in that main AR position, he feels like he can bring more to a team in that role. And he brings a lot to a team anyway, regardless of the role, and plays a very, very competent flex, right? We saw Octane talking when we showed that clip from his, Q&A, saying that, okay, yeah, Sypien and Beezy is my 2 SMGs, no doubt. Then I need a flex player. Do I choose Celium? Do I choose Arcitys, right? Even as a flex, right? And that just shows what a great player this guy is, because he can play that flex role, but also can very competently consistently, play the main assault rifle role as well, and that is his preferred role, and that's what he wants to do. And the fact that he's being able to do that, as Scump says in this clip, is very scary for the Huntsmen and other teams in the league, I believe. But yeah, as Scump says, sometimes you just got to let these things happen so we can move forward with an option that makes more sense for our team. But they would have wanted to keep him.
How do you feel about Arcitys going to FaZe? You know what? If you love something, sometimes you just gotta let it go. We didn't want to force him to stay on our roster. He wanted to go play main AR. It happens. Everyone's happy at the end of the day. Would have loved to have him, though. God, I love that guy. Ah!
So these are all the confirmations that we have so far. Atlanta FaZe, Simp, aBeZy, Cellium and Arcitys, Huntsmen, Scump, Formal, Envoy and Dashy. General confirmed as the sub. Sendat's still going to be there as the coach. Then you've got the Dallas Empire, of course. Shotzi, Hook, Illy, Crimsix. Los Angeles Guerrillas have confirmed their coaching staff. Ravens have confirmed Shawnee. There are another couple of very likely confirmations here, but we're not exactly sure who's going to be on the starting team and who might be on the bench, so some of these haven't been filled in quite yet. But certainly a lot of these teams are very clear. It seems certainly like the Toronto Ultra will move forward with Methods, Cammy, Bance and Kleenex like they did last season, but that hasn't been filled in here on CoD Gamepedia quite yet. But not too relevant today, because we're going to be talking about which of these top 3 teams, and I talked about Minnesota Rocket yesterday, and I said they can probably be a top 6 team consistently. Maybe they break into a grand final here or there, but I don't see them being competitive in the long run with these top 3 teams that you can see at the top of your screen. So let's look through these rosters and, well, have a look at who might be the best on paper right now. When we talked about the Atlanta FaZe, I thought how scary this squad was. Simp and aBeZy, in my opinion, the best SMG duo we've had over the last several years. Maybe the best SMG duo of all time, to be honest. You've got Cellium joining them as that core 3 from the FaZe Clan team last season that did so well, but always choked in grand finals. I'm pretty sure they lost 4 grand finals in a row to finish out the season. They're on to Toronto at their own home series, or the Toronto home series, of course, the World Championship grand finals, where they got absolutely crushed. And in those crucial series, they fell short. And an interesting point here is we don't even see Clayster on the screen, rumored to be going to the subliners alongside Mac, Zuma, and who knows, the 4th, potentially Pharaoh as it stands right now. But Dallas Empire, of course, did play with Clayster last season. Atlanta FaZe, that being Simp and aBeZy, played with Clayster in the Black Ops 4 season. They won the World Championship with Clayster. They decided that they'd want to go a different route and pick up a different squad and not play with Clayster for the upcoming season. He then went to the Dallas Empire, and Dallas Empire win the World Championships, beating out Atlanta FaZe. So definitely asks the question, given Clayster wasn't on the Atlanta FaZe during the Modern Warfare season, they fell short at the World Championship. They didn't quite have that clutch factor when it mattered in those big grand final series, which Clayster certainly does bring to a team. Can Arcitys bring that to this team once again? That is the big question mark. All the talent is there, all the roles are there in any meta, but the question as to whether they can actually clutch up against a team that has more veteran players on the squad is still the question. I think they'll get there eventually. Arcitys may definitely contribute to that factor. I think their Priester and Major Maniac didn't necessarily have that element to their gameplay, and Clayster was also a potential option, right? Instead of Arcitys, if you get him into the team, that could have worked very nicely as well, but they don't decide to go in this direction, so that is really their main question mark going into this season. You look at Dallas Empire, and to be honest, there is a similar question mark in the way that Empire won the World Championships in this Modern Warfare season with Clayster on the team. It now goes to 4 versus 4, and they decide to get rid of Clayster and keep Crimsix. Can't really blame them, right? Crimsix, 3-time world champion, winningest player in CoD history, knows how to win probably better than any other player in the scene. Well, there's no doubt about that. He's won the most championships. So Shotzi, Hook and Illy, if anything, they still have something to prove, in the sense that yes, they've done it great in this championship, but now they don't have Clayster, that kind of talisman figure on the team that's kind of going to hype them up at the key moments and get them, ready for battle, I suppose. Crimsix can definitely do that to some degree, but didn't necessarily have those same leadership capabilities that it seemed like Clayster had at times. So maybe Crim can develop that and there's no issues at all. But Shotzi and Illy, they've won their first championship, their first world championship in their very first year of competing. They, in a sense, have a fair bit to prove that they can do it again on another title without Clayster this time. Now, I imagine they wouldn't have the same issue necessarily as FaZe had last season of not clutching up at the big moments, because now they still do have Crimsix on the team. But you've got to say, Clayster, back-to-back world champion, both these teams lose out on that. Maybe they lose that element of clutch factor that they need to get over the line. And maybe a team like the Chicago Huntsmen with Scump and Formal that have won world championships and done this kind of stuff before. Of course, Dallas Empire have Crimsix, and these guys, Simp, aBeZy and Arcitys are all world champions. But, definitely asks the question as to whether Dallas and FaZe might fall short at the key moments that they didn't tend to do when they had Clayster on the squad. So let's look at the Huntsmen then, because on paper I think you can say that FaZe are probably the scariest team. Dallas Empire may still well be the team to beat, right? These guys are the reigning world champions, no doubt about that, and they get rid of Clayster off the team, but sometimes those are the things that have to happen, and of course I rate all these guys incredibly highly. So if I had to make a power rankings, probably FaZe first, probably maybe Empire second, but Huntsmen have got to be right up there in terms of the rosters that have been put together right now. I think the Scump and Envoy are a great SMG duo, but don't necessarily quite match up in my opinion to what some of these guys else on the squad are capable of, especially Simp and Abizi. I mean, you know, Shotzi and Illy can definitely put it up. Maybe Shotzi and Hook actually will probably be the SMG duo. Illy, if anything, will probably play the flex on this squad if that's how the meta works out. But yeah, Scump and Envoy certainly very competitive. If Dashy gets in the right mindset here, he can be one of the best slayers in the entire league, and then Formula's your main assault rifle. So on paper, it's pretty tough to differentiate between a number of these different squads. I think that the risk really with the Huntsmen is because I expect Huntsmen to be very competitive early on. These guys tend to figure out games quickly. We're back to a 4v4 environment now, so maybe that does favour Scump and Formula also that maybe haven't been quite as strong over the last couple of years in the 5v5 setting. But to be fair, you can say that for a lot of players, right, that have been very good in 4v4s, haven't been so good over the last couple of years. Is that just because, you know, they're not performing, they're not practicing quite as much as they were back in the 4v4 days? Or is that because they actually do happen to thrive better in a 4v4 environment? It's somewhat difficult to say. But if they can get Dashy like properly in tune with this squad and properly practicing and all this kind of stuff, this team can undoubtedly be competitive. And I think at the start of the season, it's going to be very difficult to choose between these three squads and maybe some other teams as well, because there's definitely some competitive other options there. OGLA, potentially the subliners as well, could make rosters that can compete for championships right at the start of the season. My real question mark is, as the season goes on, will chemistry start to suffer here? Will content take a precedence over the other factors such as winning? We know that for the Dallas Empire and for Hastro, winning is the be-all and end-all. If you don't win, there's nothing else that matters at all. So Dallas Empire are going to be going hard all season long. They improved drastically throughout the Modern Warfare season. I imagine they can do a similar thing here. So I think the risk is for Huntsmen that as the season goes on, other teams are really putting in that hard graft and potentially could pull away from how good they might be early on. So it's difficult to call right now. I think the FaZe on paper are the most talented squad. That's the scariest team in my opinion. When it comes down to the World Championships though, Empire may well be the favourites in a similar manner here to what we've seen happen this season. And I am somewhat worried about the longevity of Huntsmen's great performance, but I imagine they will start off very strong indeed. These are all the rumoured rosters as they stand right now. If you want to check where your favourite players or your favourite teams, what players that they are potentially going to get on their squad for next season. This was updated a few days ago. Some of this may well have changed, and as we said, temp to LA OpTic, not out of the question right now, but may not be set in stone because even TJ Halley hasn't officially re-signed with this squad as of recording the video. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new. As always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Which of those three teams do you think is going to be the greatest? Should Huntsmen have tried even harder to hold on to Arcitys, or would he have just decided anyway that he wanted to be a main AR, and, you know, restricting him in that sense wouldn't have been the best business move for exactly how he wants to play on the squad? And maybe getting Dashy in could prove to be a great move as well if Dashy comes up as a early Black Ops 4 Dashy, let's just say that, and the practice and the motivation issues don't turn out to be a big deal. Thanks for watching as always. I'll see you next time.